Hello and welcome to another edition of Jazz Tales for this 10th of March. So happy that you could join us. And I don't know why my lights just did that, but folks, we have some new equipment here. So I hope you like what we're going to do here. There's a new switcher and new cameras here in the Jazz Alive studio. So I hope you like where we're headed with this, but I might be moving a little slower than I usually do on this show. So glad you could join us, and let me tell you a little bit about our guests for this evening. Trumpeter and composer Dave Ballou can be heard in a variety of settings, from solo trumpet improvisations to large ensembles performing notated compositions. His recordings as a leader can be found on the Steeplechase, Clean Feed, and PF Mentum record labels. And Dave has performed or recorded with ensembles led by Rabi Abu Khalil, Steely Dan, Michael Formanak, Woody Herman, Andrew Hill, John Hollenbeck's Large Ensemble, Sheila Jordan, Oliver Lake, Dave Liebman, Joe Lovano, Dewey Redman, and Maria Schneider. He worked closely with the late Gunther Schuller, performing as soloist on the definitive recording of Journey into Jazz with the Boston Modern Orchestra project, and as a featured soloist with the world premiere of Schuller's Encounters. He was an orchestra member for the Tony Award-winning Broadway revival of 42nd Street from 2001 to 2004, and currently Dave is professor of music at Towson University, where he is the leader of the Jazz and Commercial Music program. Folks, trust me, that's just a little bit of what all Dave has done in his great career. You need to go to his website and find out much more about what all he's done. It's my pleasure to welcome Dave Ballou to the show tonight. Dave, welcome. Thanks for being here.
No, thank you, Fred. It's an honor to be here. Really thrilled.
Yeah, and you know, just as I pushed the buttons there, I have no idea why that light did what it did, but it did. So you'll be nice and bright, and I'll be kind of pink. So it's better that way anyways.
Oh.
So we're going to get started with Charlie Parker's Churl, correct?
Yep.
Yeah, great. Welcome, everybody. Enjoy the show. Beautiful, Dave. Beautiful. I'm going to reach up here and see there. Man, I have no idea. That was
Awesome.
fun.
Yeah,
You.
thank you.
Yeah. Next, we have one of my favorite tunes. I've enjoyed playing this for many, many years. Claire Fisher tune.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thanks for indulging me on this one.
Oh, of course. It's one of my favorite. Of course, listening to Freddie Hubbard's recordings of this is
Yeah, no kidding.
not that I could do that justice, but we just do what we can.
I'm sure you will. You know, before we go any further, I do want to say we have some people here, and we normally say hi to them. And I got so mixed up in the whole light thing that I forgot to say hello. We have David and Netta Ardona up in Montville, New Jersey that say good evening, Fred and Dave. Ed Refeld, who is in D.C., who says hello from D.C., looking forward to hearing Dave play and your discussion with him. There we go. And Janet and Lou up in Nutley, New Jersey say good evening, Fred and Dave. Thanks for bringing your music into our home tonight. Thanks for being here, everyone.
Very
Appreciate
nice.
it. So here's Pensativa by Claire Fisher.
Just like we rehearsed it.
Just like we rehearsed it. Thomas Williams. No kidding.
Tom Williams.
The bass player, Tom Williams. Yeah. You know, I talked to him last night for the first time in years. And I guess I should have talked to him sooner, because maybe I'd have seen him on one of these shows earlier. Tom, thank you so much for joining us. This is very cool. Just sounds beautiful. Thank you. Thank you. Did you get a chance to work with him?
No.
Yeah,
no.
he was at Towson way before you were there.
Yeah, I had heard he was there, but
So I think he was Jeff Reed's teacher while Jeff went to school.
I think that's
there.
right. Yeah,
Yeah.
I think so.
Wow.
Yeah. Wow. Thanks
Means
for
we're
joining us.
getting, we'll not even discuss that. Next, we're going to do a tune by, this was,
This is Panonica, right?
yeah,
Monk.
Monk, right. No, I'm looking at the wrong list. Man, those lights totally blew me away, man. I'm just totally off of it. So yeah, tune by Thelonious Monk. This is called Panonica.
a great tune. I love that tune.
Yeah. Thanks for asking to do that one, huh?
Yeah,
beautiful,
one of my
beautiful.
favorites.
Again, as we talked earlier, not a lot of folks do these tunes, so I love the choices that you made here.
Well, thanks.
Thank you.
Well, I have to say, I was pretty lucky because for about the past 5 years, I was playing a steady Tuesday night gig at Bertha's.
Bertha's, right.
Yeah,
I
and
do
so
remember seeing that.
one of the things was that we learned a lot of these tunes and then played them a lot. So it was
Right.
We certainly missed that gig. But,
Yeah, no kidding. Hopefully it all comes back. Well, I'm going to, I ask the same question of everyone that comes through the door, so I'm going to ask you the same thing. What is that one thing, and this ties into with our mission of Jazz Alive, which is the continuation and preservation of this great music. And in my mind, and one of the reasons that I founded the organization was, if we don't bring this music to our young folks, I shudder to say that it's not going to be here much longer. I mean, there are places that it is happening, but it's not happening like over here on the Eastern Shore, which is part of the reason why I was over here with this organization. But there are some young folks that are watching tonight, and as we continue to push this program into different places, I'm sure that people will watch this as an archive as well. Mm-hmm. So what is that? So the students is watching and thinking possibly of doing music. I always like to ask our artists, what was that one thing or several things that made you go, I need to be a musician, and more importantly, a jazz musician?
Uh-huh. Well, you know, you mentioned that you were going to ask me that, and it took me. Well, first of all, let me say that this is exactly the type of question I want to answer from my students at Towson, because it's an important question, right? And so every time I bring guest artists to the school, I always bring people that can articulate this very answer to them or something like that, because. You know, I don't think my case is untypical in any way. It was many things. It wasn't one thing. If anything, there were probably more things telling me not to be a musician than there were telling me to be a musician. Just pressure, pressure from just the society and all that. But the thing that kept me going, well, first of all, I have to say it was my brother Marty, who might be watching. It's kind of his fault, because I'm from a family of 3 boys. I'm the middle one, and my older brother started bringing home records from high school that his band director had given him, and so one of them was Maynard Ferguson live at Jimmy's, I was kind of blown away by that, which I still have because I stole it, and then Thad Jones live at the Vanguard, and 2 very different records in one way, but. That kind of got me interested. So it wasn't really like a moment of like, hey, I got to be a musician. It was like, this is something very interesting to me. Let's see what happens. And then I started playing the trumpet. I was the worst trumpet player in my band, in my middle school band. I was absolutely the worst trumpet player. And I had the ugliest trumpet too, because my parents were like, they were going to get me a trumpet because I was interested in it, and so we rented one, and then they were going to buy me one. So there was this one, there's the $120 one or there's a $35 one. I said, just get the $35 one. I don't think I'm going to keep playing. I don't know. So they got me this $35 trumpet, which all the lacquer was tarnished and all that. And I didn't practice or anything. Actually, the funny story is that my aunts lived exactly halfway between my house and school, and every day that I had to bring my trumpet home, I dropped it off at her house, so I didn't have to carry it all the way home. Right? So, but what happened is that my brother started to have a band, and they rehearsed in our basement, and I wanted to be in the band, but I was terrible, so I couldn't be in the band, and they wouldn't let me in the band. So I started studying with the trumpet player that was in the band. And then that led me to study with his teacher, who became one of my first mentors, this guy, Giulio Tancredi. We'll talk about him more later. But it wasn't necessarily a boom, like I got to do this. It was like, this is really interesting. Where's this taking me? And then I really started practicing a lot and really getting into it. And that led me to other people, particularly teachers that were, I would say teachers weren't necessarily like, hey, you got to do this. They were like, this is worth pursuing. Just keep going. And I think that's the thing that people take away from it. It's like I wasn't from a family with perfect pitch and this long lineage of anointed musicians. It was like, this is something that I got interested in, and I started following it. And it's, on one hand, it's not a typical story, but it is very typical in a lot of ways.
Sure, yeah.
So, I mean, just to kind of, so as I started to get more experience of hearing the music live and on records, and then practicing, I kind of got to a point where, with my trumpet lessons, were all classical trumpet lessons. And my teacher wanted me to follow in his footsteps, go to Manhattan School of Music, be a classical trumpet player. But I was going to this place called Bovie's Tavern on Monday nights, which had a big band. And my gods were in that band. Paul Phillips, and Hal Crook, and Red Lennox, and all these guys, and Dick Johnson, Ed Tomasi. we were underage, and we were going to this club every Monday night, looking at these guys play and listening to them. And so then it became a big rub with my teacher. When I was like, "No, I want to go to Berkeley." He goes, "No, man, you're gonna be ruined. You'll be ruined as a jazz musician." And I was like, "Yeah, but this classical stuff's kind of, I got to sit here for a really long time, and I don't know. Maybe jazz would be more expressive. Maybe I could find a thing in that." And I was just drawn to it, and then as things unfold, you start trying things,
Right.
and you start you meet older musicians and other people that are that inspire you, and I just started taking lessons with everybody I could take lessons with, and hanging around people and listening to people talk about records and check out things, and it was an amazing journey. Actually, that's one of the things one of my teachers told me was that. Actually, I said this guy's named Hal Crook, who was a very important mentor to me. And when I was 16, I didn't know him he didn't know me from anything except this kid that would go to Bovie's. Maybe he didn't even see me there. Anyway, I got a lesson with him. I didn't know anything, and he's like showing me something. I remember now, it was like a diminished scale and way over my head. And I'm like, "So, Mr. Crook, do you think I have what it takes to be a musician?" And he goes, well, nobody told me I had it." So I was like, "Oh, okay, I get it." And he's like, it's a tough life, but it's a great life. So those words, like I repeat those to my students, to anybody that asks, because it's really true. I mean, it's a great life, and it's a privilege to be able to do this all the time.
I agree. Well, you answered my question, and I had read your longer bio, but I forgot about the classical influence, because I was going to ask you, like, well, the jazz thing, because you have this very classical sound in the way that you, and I love it. It's beautiful. I mean, your trumpet sound is absolutely gorgeous.
Oh, thanks.
And you wouldn't have come through that at Bovie's. It had to have come from somewhere else, and that's why it was interesting that you.
It's interesting to say that, because the guy that I idolized at Bovie's, Paul Phillips, also studied with my trumpet teacher.
Oh, okay, yeah, sure. Well, there's the lesson in there.
But you're right. I mean, there is that conception that there's a whole different thing. But I kind of was really drawn to the sound of like Booker Little.
Sure.
There's very straight tone, very classical kind of tone.
It's beautiful. Yeah.
Woody Shaw.
Right.
These guys were really, serious trumpet players.
Right.
And when I looked into their backgrounds, Clifford Brown as well too. I mean, they practiced, and they shedded the trumpet like mad.
Right.
So, and that's why they sounded. That's why they had those kind of sounds. And
right.
So I took that cue. Booker Little went to Chicago Conservatory.
Wow.
I'm like, so it's like if he did that, I should study that stuff, right?
Right. Well, let's get to playing again. Yeah, that's a wonderful story. Thank you so much for sharing all of that. And I also just want to say we have some other people. They're all saying wonderful. Hi, all. Stephen and Laurie up in Easton, welcome. Good to see you all. Tom says, "Now you can't hide." And one of our students that's up in Nutley, New Jersey says, this sounds absolutely wonderful. Thank you for the opportunity once again. And we'll learn more about her later on in the show. But yes, thank you for all your kind words, folks. Thank you. Next on the list. Oh, yes.
Yeah.
You wanted to play another Coltrane tune, but I remember a record that you did this, just you and a drummer, and I loved it. And not too many guys play this tune, and so thankfully, when I said, "Can we do 26-2 instead?" What you wanted to do?
Straight Street.
Straight Street. Yeah.
Yeah.
I said, "Can we do 26-2?" And he said, "Oh, I love the tune." So
Yeah.
yes, thank you. That's a tough tune, but man, I thank you for indulging me.
Oh, of course, yeah.
Wanted to play that one. Thank you. Next on our list is beautiful tune. This is the one I thought we were playing earlier. Kenny Barron. I don't know a lot about it. I tried looking up because sometimes there are ways of finding out why he wrote a tune and all that. But there
Yeah.
doesn't seem, I can't find much about this tune, but it's just a beautiful song.
Yeah, I didn't know about this tune until you brought it up.
Yeah.
No, it's a beautiful one.
Well, thank you.
Yeah.
Twilight Song by Kenny Barron. Thanks for indulging me on that one.
Yeah,
Thank
of course.
you. Thank you. We've got several more people who've signed in. John Zontek up in Baltimore says, wow, he's a trombone player in the Columbia Jazz Band.
Oh, nice.
And another person, I'm not sure who that is, it says, sound great, glad to be here again. Donna Ewing, who is a middle school band director here in Easton, says, impressive, Dave. Ed Refeld in DC says, beautiful tone, beautifully played.
Thank you.
Love the dynamic contrasts in that one. Really brings to the emotion in the piece. All right.
Cool.
Like I said, we have hip people here, man.
Yeah, you're listening.
Yes, so next, any reason why you picked this tune? I do like to ask sometimes the folks that come through the doors, like, what was a reason that you might have picked this tune? I love the tune.
Yeah, again, it's one of those ones that we were playing at Bertha's quite a bit, but it's cyclic episodes from a Fuchsia Swing Song, really great record. Sam Rivers. It's that another famous tune, Beatrice,
Sure.
from that record, and it's a tune that we've been playing quite a bit. Not just the Bertha's thing, but it's gotten quite a life now. People have been kind of playing this one quite a bit. So.
Well, I know it's going to be in my repertoire from now on.
It's a
Thanks
fun
for
one.
reminding me about the song. Yeah, cool.
Yeah, Fred.
I have to pay you more money, man. I'm getting a lesson here tonight, man. Just
Oh,
playing all these great tunes, man.
Yeah.
Thank you
Thank
so
you.
much. Justin, that's who you are. Thank you for letting us know. Tom says effortless. Well, smoke and mirrors, man.
Smoke and mirrors, right. Make it look easy.
Yeah, right. So next, I just wanted to ask you about some mentors. There's a specific person, when I mentioned it in your bio, of Gunther Schuller, but
Right.
you had some other mentors before that you would like to talk about?
Oh, sure. Well, I guess, I mentioned...
And why are they mentors? What is it? That's always one thing that I like our young people to know, because sometimes, sorry, I cut you off.
No.
I think that sometimes, and Jim McFalls and I talked about this too, sometimes this mentor is right in front of you and you don't even realize it, and they're hipping you to all this stuff. So.
Well, it's funny, I started to kind of make a little list of people so I wouldn't forget anybody, and then the list ballooned like crazy, because really, the idea of mentors, I guess, we talk about Art Blakey as being a mentor and mentoring all the people that went through the Jazz Messengers, but there's a much more informal sense of that, I think, that I found. Like, there's your immediate teachers, and then there's the people that are influential to you. So like me, my first immediate teacher is this guy, Giulio Tancredi, who, man, I studied with him probably from the time I was 13 till like 23, and, we went through a ton of, like I said, classical literature and stuff, but it really gave me a good foundation on the instrument. So that was a cool thing. But then, this guy, Hal Crook, was a mentor for many years, because like I first took that lesson with him that I mentioned, but then many years later, I started studying with him on a much more regular basis, and then playing with him, and just a really influential person. But really, when I think of mentors for myself, this guy Herb Pomeroy was a huge influence, because I went to Berkeley College. First of all, I went to University of Rhode Island because my parents worked there, and it was free, and it was like the easiest thing to do. Right out of high school, it's the only school I applied to because it was like easy. And then after 2 years, they said they couldn't get a music ed degree because for other reasons, and so you could quit or stay longer. So I'm giving you there's a whole bunch of stuff in there that I'm skipping over. Right. But anyway, the thing was, I took a year off. I worked in a pizza place. I worked in a morgue. I did gigs. I saved up money, and I went to Berkeley. And when I got to Berkeley, I had already been playing with some people that taught there. So they told me, the best advice was find who you want to be around and stick around them. And they said, get around Herb Pomeroy and Greg Hopkins. So I did, and it paid off huge, because not only did I end up getting to play in Herb's band, which was the top band at the school, which I should say, by the way, you go to Berkeley, you get a rating, and I got low ratings, but I ended up in this top band. Because the rating, my audition was terrible, but then I was subbing in the band, and they were like, oh, you can play, you should be in here. Okay. So anyway, I got to know her pretty well, and he was very, very helpful for me, because he could see what I was struggling with personally, and he kind of knew how to tell you things that would get in there. And some of the things he said even stick with me today. And of course, I got to play with him more, and I got to know him through the years until he passed, and still very, very influential. And there's a whole bunch of people in that, but there's the informal ones, the people that you play with, like, the people I go on tour with. I feel like they're my mentors because I'm learning from them.
Sure.
And,
yeah, of course.
But getting into Gunther Schuller, there's a connection from Herb Pomeroy to Gunther Schuller as well. So.
So that's how you got the gig?
No, well, so how I got the gigs with Gunther was through George Schuller, who's Gunther's son. And I started playing in a band that George had called Orange Then Blue. And that band, at the time, the trumpet section was myself and Dave Douglas and Kung Vu. Wow. And Chris Speed was in the band. It was all Boston people, but it was pretty heavy. So the thing was, I knew Herb, and I was starting to get to know Gunther through George. And the first time I got to work with Gunther was that Herb and Gunther did a collaboration to do Ellington music. And it was a combination of Berkeley people, NEC people, and Herb's band. He had a big band. And I got to do that. And it was incredible because we played all this Ellington music acoustically. No amplification on anything. Not the band, not the bass, nothing. And Gunther had this approach where he wanted you to play exactly everything that as it was on the record.
Wow.
And Herb had this approach of like, make it your own, right? And so they never like conflicted each other, but like I ran into, that's my first working with Gunther, and I couldn't get this plunger thing right, and he came down on me hard, like right in front of everybody, like, you know, so it was pretty funny. That was my first introduction to him, and then I did other things with him, and eventually what happened was he had a festival called the Sandpoint Festival in Sandpoint, Idaho, where it was the first year I went there was the full-blown thing where it was like composers and classical and jazz and a whole huge thing, like 3 weeks long or so. And I got to work with him a lot there, but that's also where I got to work with Joe Lovano and Billy Hart. And that's where I first played the Journey into Jazz thing, because he did that as part of the festival orchestra thing, and so I was a soloist in that. And so then I started doing that, you know, when he kind of had a resurgence of it, so he would call me to play that part. And so just being around him was really inspiring, because, you know, he was definitely of a classical world, but he honored the jazz tradition so much, and his idea of a third stream thing was kind of like combining the two musics. But you know, the way he did that was like there was like the classical and the jazz. It was never kind of like melded. It was you know, okay, here comes the rhythm section. Okay, here comes the jazz, and then. But that, you know, I mean, you don't question a guy like that.
Oh,
you
of course
just
not.
got
No,
like, man, amazing. You know,
right.
He's largely responsible that we know of Ornette Coleman. So a lot of things. So anyway, the last big thing I did with him was he wrote a piece for the 150th anniversary of Jordan Hall in Boston, and he wrote a piece for an orchestra of 160 people and 4 jazz soloists. And I was one of the soloists, and so I got to stand in front of this 60-piece orchestra, stand up and play some solos, and it was hilarious though, because like, you know, we had these it was like a blues with a bridge that we had to play on, and the rhythm section was 50 feet away in the back, and we're up front trying to play it. He's all like, "Oh, you're not hitting the bridge with them." I'm like, "Yeah, I'd be lucky if I hit anything with them," you know. But he was great. You know, one of my favorite memories is sitting in my basement in a house I owned in New Jersey at the time, and Gunther calls, and he says, "Hey, would you get a solo tone mute and play that over the phone? What does that sound like? Okay, now get a harmony with a stem. Okay, now do that. Okay, what's that straight mute sound like? And is that a metal one or a fiber one?" And it's like, and I'm like helping him figure out how the sounds of the mutes on the phone.
Wow.
So that was kind of fun.
Yeah, what amazing stories.
Yeah.
Wow. Oh, well, I could go on and ask a whole bunch of questions about him just because he fascinates me, as I told you a little bit before we came on the air. But let's play some more.
Cool.
Let's play some more. So we've got another Thelonious Monk tune, right?
Right.
Ask
Me Now.
Yeah.
Okay. 1, 2. Yeah.
It was a tune by Chick Corea called Matrix. Thank you for indulging me in and asking you to play this one. It's a fun tune.
Oh, yeah. That's great.
Yeah. Well,
Awesome.
before I ask you one more question, we have some students and sponsors we would like to thank. So I'll tell you a little bit about some of these students. We'd like to thank Janet and Lou Russo in Nutley, New Jersey, for sponsoring Isabella Bonilla, who signed in earlier from Nutley, New Jersey. She plays trumpet in the Nutley High School Jazz Ensemble, Wind Ensemble, and Marching Band. And Justin also signed in, and Justin Rigi, and he plays trumpet in the Nutley High School Jazz Band, Jazz Ensemble, Wind Ensemble, and Marching Band.
All right. Awesome.
Thank you, Janet and Lou. We'd also like to thank Sherry and John Zimmerman up in Mechanicsburg, Pennsylvania, for sponsoring Mason Miller from Easton, Maryland, a 7th grade trumpet player who's in the Easton Middle School Concert Band, Marching Band, and Jazz Band. And also Caroline Welty from Easton, Maryland, who's an 8th grade trumpet player, and she's in the Easton Middle School Concert Band, Marching Band, Jazz Band, and made the 2021 All-Shore Band. All right, congratulations, Caroline.
Great, congratulations.
Yeah, that's wonderful to hear. And we'd also like to thank Annetta and David Aragona up in Montville, New Jersey, who sponsored Gabby Gigante from Nutley, New Jersey, who plays trumpet and mellophone in the Nutley High School Jazz Ensemble, Concert Band, and Marching Band. Folks, if you'd like to know more about how to sponsor a student or sponsor an episode of Jazz Tales, here's how you find out. You go to the sponsorship tab at jazzalive.org, and you can find out more information about sponsoring either a student or an episode of Jazz Tales. And finally, we would like to thank Joan Levy and the Talbot County Arts Council, who has made it possible for the Easton High School Jazz Band, under the direction of Mr. E.J. Osterly, to watch the entire 6 months of our first of this year's programming on Jazz Tales. So not only can they watch it live, but he can use it as part of his curriculum. So it's just a wonderful thing. We just really thank all of the sponsors. Thank you so much for making this happen.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah. We're going to play another number, right?
Right.
We got one more. One more. What are we going to do? What it was?
We were going to do
Ellington. Yeah.
Chelsea Bridge?
Chelsea Bridge, yeah. Philly Strayhorn. Yeah. Wonderful tune.
Let's take your pickups.
much for doing
Yeah.
the plunger too, man. That's such a. I'm sure that the trumpet players that were here were like really enjoying being able to have such a close up of that.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, that's actually the first time I used the plunger on that one. So.
Oh wow, it's beautiful, beautiful. Well, we have several people that say, "Thank you so much for the sponsorship. Sounded amazing tonight. Thank you." And Lou Russo, who is our vice president of Jazz Alive, says, "Thank you both for another wonderful show." Well, we've got just some parting words for our students. It always happens. We run out of time, but
yeah, it just goes so quickly, doesn't
it? Yes, it does.
Man, it's wow, such great to hear that they're all out there, and just keep at it, just keep playing, and keep, it's a really, I'll give you the advice that was given me. It's a great life. It's a tough life, but it's a great life. And I'd add to that my own thing is that even if you don't become a professional musician, you can always play music and enjoy it. And that's really what it's all about, So just stay with it and always have music in your life, and you always have something to do. Always be fun.
There you go. There you go.
Right.
Can I talk you into just doing another quick one?
Sure, of course.
I'm just having so much fun.
Yeah, me too.
Playing with you. If you don't mind, I'd like to do all the things you are.
I love that.
And I do it in 3.
Okay.
If you don't mind.
All right.
A brisk 3.
Sure.
Thanks.
I love that. It's funny. I was going to call that one earlier.
me, it's been an honor. Thank you
Oh,
very
it's been
much.
my pleasure, my honor. Thank you so much. Thank you, everybody, for listening, and yeah, it's
Yeah.
fun.
Yes. So, folks, in 2 weeks, we've got Bob Buddha joining us, and Bob will be here with bassist Paul Langosh as well. Bob's got just a fantastic story of how he's gotten where he's gotten. He's played with pretty much anybody that's been anybody in Baltimore. You know, when somebody would come through, he was the piano player they would call. He just has a wonderful resume. So I hope you'll join us in 2 weeks for Bob Buddha along with bassist Paul Langosh. Once again, thank you so much for being here with us this
Thank
evening.
you. My
Yes.
pleasure.
And
Really.
we'll see all of you in 2 weeks, I hope.